Hey guys, it's your girl Jo here, back at you with another video. For those of you guys who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Jo, and this is a channel where we've open discussions through books and film, and sometimes I do lifestyle, traveling, and writing related videos, which is the reason why I'm so excited about this video today, because this is going to be part 2 of my Call Me By Your Name series that I did. It was just a 2-part series, but if you have not checked out the first one, I did do a book review on the actual book itself, so if you have not watched that yet, you can go ahead and check it out. But for this one, I'm specifically going to be devoting a writing video to kind of deconstructing the film itself and share different elements with you guys. Those of you guys who might be writing a romance or have romantic elements to your piece that you're writing, I'm going to pick apart at 5 different elements that I think every romance should have and what the film includes as well. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into the video. So for the very first thing, it's the initial meeting. That is the most important part of any romance. What is the starting point of that first connection that sets the stage for the rest of the relationship and where the relationship is going to go? Is it rocky? Is it weird? Is it awkward? Is it instantaneous? Is it passionate? Or is it, whether it's passionate in a positive way or in a negative way, it really just depends. That really does set the scene for how the relationship is going to play out. But also keep in mind, what kind of characters are these two people? What kind of people are they? What are their dreams? What are their aspirations? What is it that they want from each other? And what is it that they want from their relations with other people? For instance, like Oliver is an associate professor, probably trying to get tenure, and is working on his book. So he is working as Elio's father's assistant. And then on top of that, when you look at Elio's part, Elio is someone who does live in a little bit of isolation. He's very close to his family and he does have a social life somewhat, but you could tell that there's a lack of someone where he can have a connection with, which is things that he really is passionate about, which is his books and his music and his wonderings about life. There's not really anyone that he can really have that deep connection with. There's a lot of elements of Elio that he's looking for too in that human connection, and they found it in each other, which is the reason why when they first meet, it's kind of awkward because Oliver is very passionate and he's very friendly and he's very forthcoming, when Elio is a little bit more timid and is actually kind of reserved about Oliver because he has never seen a man that confident. And so that is what sets the tone for how the relationship goes forward. Remember, it's the characters themselves and of course how they first meet, and that plays into what kind of things perspires after that leads them to that initial relationship. The second thing that's most important is, of course, that tender moment. One of the most important things in getting to know someone, I think, especially when it comes to when you are leading into romantic feelings, is what's that first initial moment where maybe it feels like it's different from the rest. That is the most important part of a romance. In the film, I believe that part really came when Oliver and Elio went on that first bike ride together. At least in the book. I think in the film, they've gone on bike rides several times. So I think at the initial point where Elio seems to be kind of coming more into terms with his feelings for Oliver is after they sit at that cafe and they have this very mundane and banal conversation, but you can tell that even though they're far apart and they're sitting across from each other, you can tell that Elio is trying to gravel with how he really feels about Oliver. And so I think that is the very center point of when Elio begins to realize that he is having feelings for Oliver. And that is a very important part in the film that leads to them kind of getting into a little bit of a disagreement and kind of like things get shaky after that point. So that tender moment is very important because it's that realization of when these two characters are starting to like each other. For Oliver, we know it's at the very, very beginning. He admits that he had feelings for Elio at the very beginning. But again, another tender moment for Oliver's part is when he touches Elio's shoulder during the after the volleyball game, and Elio shrugs off. So it's a little bit of an awkward moment, and you know as the watcher that this is a moment that is different from the rest. Why did he have that reaction? Why? Look at Oliver's face. You know, that is another very tender moment. The third part is the rockiness. So in every relationship, when you're getting to know someone, it's always rocky because you're learning good things and bad things about that person. You're not really sure if you even feel that way about that person. You're grappling with your own feelings toward this person. In the movie, Elio gets into somewhat of a relationship or fling with the girl, I forgot her name, the Italian girl, in the meantime, while also flirting with Oliver, and Oliver is just not buying it and is seeing right through it. So that is the rocky part, because Oliver, who's a little bit more sure in himself, and even though he's closeted, he still knows that he's attracted to Elio, and we feel that. We do feel his authoritative presence. But with Elio is still trying to figure out who he is. He's still trying to figure out how he feels about Oliver and everything, and at the same time stringing along a girl, which is a very, very immature thing to do. So that in itself becomes rocky, because Oliver is reminded that Elio is much younger than him. So that is definitely another part of why what I mean by the shakiness. So this can play out in various ways. If the two people that are supposed to be love interests, one of them has a spouse, this could play out if one of them has a goal and they're choosing that goal over that person and how they feel about that person. It could be that that person is fighting their feelings. That's another part. So any kind of thing that can make the connection kind of rocky, it's a great thing, because it kind of creates a suspense for the reader and waiting for them to finally get together. You see this play out in various pieces, whether it's like Jane Eyre or Pride and Prejudice, or Pretty Woman is different, but you can definitely see like the initial, you could feel them falling in love, but you're waiting for that moment. Even though they're having sex and everything, it's not connected with love. So you're waiting for that actual love making in Pretty Woman. So again, the various different stories where you have that rockiness before you get to the reward, which leads me into number 4, which is the final reward. In the movie, the final reward we get is when Oliver first kisses Elio, and it's that beautiful, seductive, yet subtle scene that they have, I believe at a creek or something. They're laying down and they finally have their first kiss, and Elio finally can give in to his feelings, and it's actually Oliver who stops them before they do anything that Elio might regret. And I think that was something that was so telling. It showed how Oliver is so mature for his age and how he really handled the situation. But at the same time, it showed this kind of immaturity of Elio, who is inexperienced in his sexuality, especially in regard to a man. And at the same time, he's so filled with passion, and he lets it spurt out just in that moment. That's why I think Timothée Chalamet and Armie Hammer perform that scene extremely well. And again, we get that final reward. So it has to be a moment of release for the reader, because you're building up this romance to finally explode, and you have to have that moment. If you don't have that moment, it does lag, or if you take too long. That's why pacing is very important. I will say that the last part that's most important in a romance is what is the dynamic between these two people. That is the most important thing ever, because again, you have to have a good understanding of the characters. You have to get a good understanding of what the plot is and what's the difficulty, because every relationship, especially in a romance, there has to be a sense of difficulty. In the film, the difficulty is for Elio, him kind of hiding it from his parents, but then again, not really. I think it's more about him coming to terms with his sexuality and finally sleeping with Oliver and figuring out what this new terrain is. So for Oliver, it's different, because with Oliver, he has to be the one to restrain the relationship, because Elio is this flustering, he's ready to explode, and Oliver is kind of that stopper throughout the relationship, as you could tell during the entire film. But at the same time, their dynamic works because they're both intellectuals, they're both into the very, very similar taste, but at the same time approach it very differently. And they're both different because Elio is someone who is just getting to learn about himself. He's very insecure. He doesn't know his self-worth. And Oliver does not associate his sexuality or his insecurity about his sexuality doesn't affect the way that he views himself. And you can see it in the way that he carries himself and his confidence and everything. And so that's what drives the dynamic of the relationships. I think the most important driving point in this entire video is know your character, know them, because once you really know them, you will be able to easily have a dynamic between these two people, and that's what will make your story super authentic. The reason why I think Call Me By Your Name is such a good idea for deconstructing and figuring out what makes it such a great romance is because it executes itself so well. It's subtle, it follows a format that works in terms of how the relationship just slowly flourishes and sizzles, very character driven. And I think that's what makes it such a powerful film, because a relationship, as much as it's about the connection and relationship and sexuality of two people and their connection to each other, it's also very much about the two individual people themselves and who they are separately as well. And I think that is what makes a romance so great, and that is the reason why I used Call Me By Your Name. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you noticed from the film that maybe I missed that you would think would be a great writing tip as well. I'm also interested to know what other films you guys might think might be a good idea to draw from in terms of inspiration, and what other tips maybe I missed. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. Bye.